It's July 6, 2020, and here I am at my quirky quarter acre. Got my trusty garden helper. And today is notable because today is my granddaughter's birthday, so happy birthday to you. I hope you like your gift. And this morning I am going to show you the garden because it seems like lately most things are happening in the morning. That's when everything is blooming, the bees are working, and I'm going to show you how things are progressing. And then I'm probably going to go back inside because it is going to be super hot today, in the 90s. We had a really good rain last night, and we may get a little more today, but the humidity is really high, and we're not going to want to be out here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So let's go see what's happening. There are my cabbage starts and my Brussels sprout starts for the fall garden. I planted those on the 20th of June, and they're sprouted, and I'm not sure why they're leggy, because they have been outside the whole time. I did have them over in the shade so that they wouldn't get too hot, and then I moved them out here to the sun, but they're still leggy, and I'm really not sure what's going on with that, but I hope I get something usable out of there. Next to that is some purple basil that my neighbor gave me the other day. I went down to see her garden, and we talked about squash bugs because they have arrived, and this means war. And we discussed some strategies for keeping those down, if not eliminating them. I don't know that there is a way to completely eliminate them, but I have been spraying neem oil in the evenings and picking off eggs when I see them, and of course squishing them as I find them, which is not a fun exercise, but hey, they're after my favorite vegetable. What am I going to do? Some of the status are blooming, and I have cut a few of these already to take inside to dry. These make excellent dried flowers. Next to that you see the celeriac, which is growing quite well, and I'm still not sure how you tell when you eat that, but I've been cutting some of the leaves off in the stems, and they do taste just like celery, so toss them in a salad. The peppermint has grown quite a bit and expanded itself, and I think it really needs to be in a bigger pot. So that's one of the things I'm going to work on. And the catnip is blooming. Isn't that pretty, y'all? Isn't that pretty? The lemon balm is getting ready to bloom too. I have not harvested any of this yet. It is a little yellow, I'm not sure why, but I'm going to see about harvesting that once it's past the blooming stage, because I'm not sure. I think last year I harvested it in the fall, and I see I've got a couple of weeds in there I need to pull out. And look at that horseradish go. It has really exceeded any expectations I had for it. The leaves are really big. It's about knee-high, which is pretty great. And it's been a really long time since I've had any horseradish growing, so it's exciting to finally have some again. The sage has been blooming continuously, and I don't think I got any seeds out of the blooms the last time I picked the dried blooms, because I looked up the seeds and they seemed to be bigger than what I had. I'm still not sure. I will let the flowers completely dry and then see what I get. And if I don't get any seeds, that's okay too, because I have this nice plant. I just thought it'd be fun to try and grow some more. Rosemary's looking good. I've been harvesting a little bit of the sage and a little bit of the rosemary. This status isn't doing too well. I think it just doesn't get enough sun. It was planted at the same time as the one in the back that's blooming. So I think what I may do is move this pot and possibly put that status someplace else and give it a chance to grow at least, and then put something else in the pot. I do have a couple of other herbs that need to be in a bigger pot besides the peppermint. And there's the oregano. It is slowly getting bigger. It seems to grow fairly slow, and I'm not sure why. It may not get enough light either over here. So I may consider moving those as well. But that thing is pretty heavy, so I don't know. It's going to be a project to move it if I decide to do that. The lavender has come out and grown quite a bit since I harvested the flowers. It's getting very shrub-like, very bushy, very woody stems. I'm going to try some air layering to see how that works. I went yesterday to Rural King, which is our local farm store, to get some compost / topsoil to put in the raised bed for the fall garden, as it needs replenishing. And I saw that they still had some of these, and so I got 3 of them. And I was very surprised and very happy to see that when they rang up, they were actually half price. So even better. I will put probably the peppermint in here. I also have tansy, and I need somewhere to put the basil. The marigolds that I planted in the strawberry bed are finally blooming. I harvested some of these seeds, and when I started to open the pods, I realized they are not beets. They are actually purple plum radishes. I guess I thought they were beets because they were purple, the roots were purple, and I didn't realize they were radishes. So I still don't know what beets look like when they flower, but it ain't like that. There is a beet growing over there. See those purple leaves? I should have known that because the leaves weren't purple that it wasn't a beet, but you know, I got excited about beet seeds. Anyway, I did planted more beets, and they're sprouting, and I'm gonna give them a little more time to grow, and then they'll either need to be thinned out, or some of them, if they look pretty sturdy, I may try and transplant them over on the other side once I get the rest of those radishes and the seeds out of there. I still have small lettuce that I have been harvesting, but it's been so hot the last couple of days it is getting a little bitter, so I may pull it all out and replant, but I'm still deciding on that. You can see how low the soil is there on the side of the bed, so I really need to refill this, put some good stuff in there for it to grow in. It has continued to bloom and make seeds. Lettuce seeds kind of look like a little dandelion puff when they're ready to go. I'm thinking that if I stop collecting the seeds and just let this go, it is definitely going to reseed itself, but I'm not sure I want that. And I'm not going to worry about it. If it grows, it grows, but I'm not going to let it reseed itself on purpose. There's my garden helper. She comes down every morning and walks the garden. She has learned not to chase toads, though. This hot mess right here is cabbages and Brussels sprouts and chard and onions that were planted all in the spring. These were planted 3.5 months ago, and they're still not ready to harvest. So I have to decide what to do about this bed. Those are shallots on the back side. I've never grown shallots before. I don't know when to harvest them. They don't seem to be a lot bigger than what I planted. And I'm not sure that I will fool with those again either. Here's the carrot bed. This is the one I was weeding last time. And you can see that the plantain has come back. It's a never-ending battle with this stuff. But the carrots are still growing. And I actually have a couple of parsnips in there somewhere. I have reseeded. And I've got some little carrot sprouts in there. This bed also needs more soil, but I'm not sure how to do that without taking all the carrots out, so I think I'll leave it for a little while. And there's a big clump of grass in there I need to get out. Because if I don't pull this giant clump of grass out of here, you won't be able to see what I'm trying to show you. More plantain. And this stuff seems to just grow up super big and bloom overnight. And the seeds are just out of control. I know some people use plantain, but I don't know what it's for, and I don't know how to use it, so I just pull it up. Maybe I should do some research on it since I've got such a bumper crop. This is a sunflower. I planted several sunflowers over here, and the deer came by for a snack. See right here? The deer just nipped off the entire top, and it's got a new sprout here and a sprout there. Pretty resilient plant. If the deer don't come back, I might actually get a bloom. One of the reasons I wanted to do the video early in the morning is that these things open up, and all these squash, it's just a field of yellow and green. There are also some cantaloupe blooms in there, some cucumber blooms. This is a winter squash, and it is blooming like crazy, and the bees are working very hard in there. That's good stuff. Here's one of the giant zucchini plants. I did have to prune some of the leaves off. And I see another one there. It looks like it's getting powdery mildew. Look at the size of this leaf. Isn't that amazing? One little seed, and this giant plant came out of it. Oh, and I see I have a giant zucchini down here too. Look at that. Gorgeous. Cantaloupe and cucumbers, which I didn't really mean to plant together, but here they are. The reason that the cucumbers are in here is because those are the ones I planted and they didn't come up. So I planted the cantaloupe in the spot, and then the cucumbers came up. So they're just a bonus, I guess. They don't seem to mind being crowded together. There is a patty pan squash on this plant somewhere down there, but I don't want to move the leaves around too much because I don't want to disturb the bees. This squash patch is full of bees, y'all, and I love it. These might be a little easier to see. Lots of yellow crooknecks in there. And I see one I need to pick. I actually usually try to pick these later in the morning after the bees have gone, but for purposes of illustration. It's a little small, but these are super tender when they're this size. And right now I have plenty, so I'm not worried about picking them too soon. And as usual, neighbor kitty has come to visit. He's so silly. Here's the regular pumpkin patch. It is growing very well. I found a green pumpkin yesterday, and there are finally getting to be some female blossoms on the rest of them. The melons are also growing really well. These are the Baker Creek melons, the Amish melon, the jelly melon, the Kajari melon, the Sharon Taste melon, if I'm saying that right. And there may be one or two others in here, I'm not sure, but this is the 40-foot patch. And they are blooming quite well, as you can see. What do you want from me? Got some more volunteers in the compost pile. Not at all sure what those are. Could be pumpkins, could be squash, could be gourds. Who knows? I planted the other swamp roses, the hibiscus, here next to their big sister. And so far those are looking pretty good. And also there are weeds already poking up out of the mulch there. One of the great things about Western Kentucky is that we get a lot of rain, which is really good for the garden plants, but it's also good for the weeds. When the deer came by for their snack of sunflowers, they also helped themselves to some of my tomato plants. They're coming back out, and these were the additional tomato plants that I wasn't so concerned about, but I'm still annoyed about it. I asked for some suggestions on how to deter them, and one of the things I found was that Irish Spring soap apparently seems to deter them a bit. So I wrapped a few bars of this, hung it in here, and so far I haven't seen any new damage, so it might be working. I guess we'll see. And there's my round zucchini. Still a rock star. It is producing a lot of fruit, y'all. Very happy with it. There's a beautiful cluster of squash in there. There's probably 6 or 7 right there. And when I come back this afternoon, they'll probably be ready to harvest. These things grow so fast when it rains. And there's my garden helper, holding down the dirt. The cucumber trellis is working well. I have harvested a few cucumbers off of this. And you can see it's got a ton of blooms on it. And actually, there's one right here. a pretty nice one. Yesterday I made the cucumber and onion salad with vinegar, water, and black pepper, and I tell you what, on a hot summer day, it is extremely refreshing. And I see that I have one more down here. These were tiny yesterday. These are the yard-long asparagus beans. And I've harvested some, and I'm sort of collecting those and keeping them in the refrigerator as they get to size, so that when I get enough we can have a nice side dish. These are the actual beans, and this is ready to harvest. But one of the things I have really been impressed with are these blooms. Just look how gorgeous those flowers are. They look like orchids. Sugar baby watermelon coming along. And another one. And that is a spaghetti squash. This thing is massive. The peppers are finally blooming, although I don't have any peppers yet. I think they'll be along shortly. And I just want y'all to look at these tomatillos. They are absolutely loaded down with fruit. I hope we like them, because we sure have got a lot of them. The okra's coming along. No blooms yet. But with it's hot as it's going to be the next few days, I expect this stuff will just spring up and go wild. And this corn actually finally started to grow. It's not quite waist high yet, and there's not very much of it, but it might be good to have just a few ears, and if I need to, I will come down here and hand pollinate it. I do not, however, think I'm going to fool with corn again next year. It's been a lot of work for not much reward. It's been kind of the same with these pole beans. They just didn't germinate well at all. There is a bean on there, but there's not much I can do with 2 plants. I'll probably just pick those and mix them in with the other beans. The dill has started to bloom, and I found out why my neighbor's dill is so much bigger. It's because hers is mammoth dill and mine is bouquet dill. This still makes a good pickle, and I do plan to save the seeds off of this, but my neighbor is also going to save me some seeds from hers. And you can see that bee working those flowers. I just love watching these guys. I could stay down here and just watch them work all morning long. The cilantro is also making seeds, and the seed heads are heavy and it's falling over. I've been watching these so that I can harvest the seeds, and once it's a little drier out here and the dew goes away, I'm not sure how much of it is dew and how much of it is leftover rain, but I will get down here and check on those and see if any of those are ready to harvest. If it self-seeds, I probably wouldn't pull up the plants, but I do want to move it. I want to have a more permanent herb bed where I can put all these annual herbs, and then they can just reseed themselves as they like, and that would be fine with me. I put them down here because I didn't really have anywhere else at the time to plant them, and I just wanted to get them going. Plus, I wanted to see if anything would actually grow in this part of the garden, because this is where I had the standing water problem back in the spring, but my cardboard and piling extra on top of the cardboard seems to have helped quite a bit. I haven't noticed any standing water back here since then. The parsley is doing great too. It seems like I've had green tomatoes forever and a day. I'm so impatient. But yesterday I found 2 pink bumblebees that are starting to turn. So we are finally, at last, on our way to ripe tomatoes. These are the Cosmic Eclipse, which are actually turning out to be a little bigger than I thought. For some reason I thought they were cherry tomatoes, but they're not. And they're producing, but they've really underperformed, and I don't know whether that has to do with their location or what, but I am leaning toward eliminating this variety for next year. And I'm still not sure what this is. Pretty sure it's a squash, but it hasn't made any fruit yet, so I don't know. And whatever it is extremely healthy. It has, however, defied going up the trellis, and it's just going along the ground. So I may either move this trellis for next year or plant something that I can actually identify, and hopefully I won't end up with such a hodgepodge because of the late freeze. I wasn't sure what was alive over here, and I replanted some things, and obviously I didn't take proper notes. And there is the Cherokee Tan. There's the green fruit. Although it looks like a green pumpkin, I was surprised by the shape because I expected it would be round, so I'm not sure what that means, but this vine has gone absolutely berserk. It is over in the tomatoes. It is heading for the fence. And it is all the way up here and going over into those tomatoes too. It definitely needs a patch of its own for next year. And there's the green fruit. If that is not a Cherokee Tan after all, I wish somebody would tell me so that I can figure out what it actually is. I have seen pictures of Cherokee Tan that do have the neck on them, so maybe that's what it's supposed to look like. I don't know if that could get cross-pollinated with something else. Guess I'll find out in the end. And one more thing I want to show you before I get out of here so these bees can do their work and I won't be bothering them. It looks like one of my Tennessee dancing gourd vines survived. And I should have at least 2. I was pretty excited about these guys because they're just adorable, and they'll make some really fun Christmas ornaments and things like that. So I'm gradually identifying things that are back here in the jungle portion of the garden. Now let's face it, the whole thing is a jungle at this point, and I don't mind that at all. But I would like to know what things are. And I've told myself that next year I'm definitely going to take better notes. I am definitely going to draw my map better. I'm working on an idea for my map that I can make reusable and not have to draw a new one every time I change something. So I'll let you know about that once I figure it out. And meanwhile, the mighty tiger stalks the jungle. The money makers are loaded down. The pink bumblebees are loaded down. Brandywines are making tomatoes. And there are a ton of these yellow pears. I see a little bit of color on these tomatoes, so I'm getting pretty excited about it. Right now though, my battery is dying and I need to get out here and stop bothering these bees. Thanks for watching. See you next time.